In the last few years, our society has been changing in many ways. Some of them good, some of them not so good. Not so good, I'm talking about school shootings, mass shootings, and a suicide rate that's triple what it was a few years ago. Something is happening to our youth that nobody seems to know what to do about it, and I'm not sure I do. So I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. The president the other day said we had an average of a school shooting once a week so far. That's just, is that acceptable? Of course not. The suicide of our young people is so high now that they have reclassified suicide to be a disease. Now, I don't know what exactly this accomplishes, except that it does give better health care to that individual when suicide is classified as a disease. Well, what to do about it? What's going on? What's happening to our children? I remember when I was young, when I was a teenager, there's no such thing as school shootings. They just they didn't happen. Suicide was there, but it was very, very rare. I can only remember one suicide of a young person that went to my school all the way through elementary school, just one person. But now it's just rampant. Well, what's changed? Some people want to do away with the guns, to not have tougher gun controls. Well, when I was young, we had as many guns then as we do now. Now, we didn't have those AK-47s and things of that nature, but we had guns. And I know my family had 3 guns at that time. Now I don't. So guns were a lot easier to get then too. So I don't know whether just blaming it on guns is good enough. Although I wouldn't mind to see some tougher gun legislation myself, especially taking AK-47s out of the hands of people. Then they say that it's mental illness, that more and more people are getting mentally ill. Well, if they are, why? Mental illness was very rare when I was young. Now, some of the difference between my society when I was young and this society is pretty clear. When I went to school, we had very little homework. If we had any homework at all, it was usually just something we could do in about 30 minutes. Today, the kids have a tremendous amount of homework. When they go home, they have to spend the rest of the evening working on their homework. We didn't have organized baseball and organized after-school activities, none of that. If we wanted to get out in the sandlot, which we did often, and play softball, or I had a basketball goal on my backyard, and we went out there and played basketball, we could do so. We could interact with other people, and there was no push or feeling that somebody had to win or be better than each other. We just had fun. I don't think the youth of today has had that opportunity to just be children, to just go out there. That's one of the, I don't think that's the total thing. No, I don't know whether there's any one thing you can point at. Another thing we didn't have was television. We didn't have television, and we didn't have that constant violence that we see on television today. When we come home in the evening, we'd go outside because there wasn't anything to do inside. We could listen to radio, and sometimes we did, but wasn't a big deal. And we could go outside and play with our friends, and I knew the name of everybody in my entire block all the way up and down, whether they had kids or not. That just doesn't happen today. I do know the names of my immediate neighbors, but farther on down I don't. So we didn't have smartphones, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have iPads, we didn't have Game Boys and stuff like that, which are all distractions from just growing up to me. I mean, they're just, they're fun to play with, but they don't really teach you anything except maybe hand-eye coordination. We didn't have all that. But then in the 60s, something else happened too. Something that I think was another cause of what is going on. Now, I'm not offering solutions to this. I wish I had the solution. But what happened is that science started moving into the field of religion. Science started teaching in their schools. They started teaching evolution, and finally they started teaching Big Bang theories and stuff like that. And finally now, to the extent that you can't even have prayer in school. Well, prayer is really not religion. No, it's just honoring a God. Now, the people that don't believe in God, why, they may be offended, but if we had those in those days, they just were quiet. They didn't say anything about it. They let the rest of us do that. And we saluted the flag every single day in school. We went to school. The first thing we did was salute the flag. Second thing we did was have a short prayer. The war was going on, so mostly this prayer was about our soldiers and the safety of them. So now it has gotten to the extent where a person can't, in a public place, they can't show any kind, the Ten Commandments and stuff like that. It can't be shown because there must be a separation of state and religion. Well, I've talked, I'm on the internet constantly, and I've been on a lot of boards with that were atheist boards, and I've talked to them. I've been real nice and haven't really insulted any of them, but they are very adamant about there is no God. Well, I think that in itself is not such a bad thing, but what gets me is that there is nothing after this life for them. They don't believe. They think when you die, you die. Well, that changes the ball game tremendously. If you grew up believing that if you lived a fairly normal life and you treated people fine, you'd go to this wonderful place called heaven. And after you died, and their life would continue, and you had a spirit in your body. You were not your body, you were a spirit living in a body. And now this is totally changing. Our children are beginning to believe that your brain created you. Yeah, they won't use that language, but basically that's what happened. And that your genes control you. And I don't believe that's true at all. So if a kid gets into a real tough life and he don't know what to go or how to get out of it, he has no hope for the future. No hope at all. He can't say, well, I'm going to do my best right here and do what I'm supposed to do, and when I die, I'll be in a better place. I'll be in a better place. Now it's just, why should I put up with this? Why don't I just die now and end this silliness? I had a professor in college that taught philosophy, and he said, when we got in his class, he said that he used to teach had a lecture on why one should commit suicide. He said, but his wife made him take it out because she was afraid that some young student would commit suicide and leave a note that said Mr. and his name told me to do it. So I don't know where we can change that, but this part of it's getting worse. It's getting more and more secular. Now I like secular people. I don't have anything against them, but I know that I'm not a body. I know that I'm a spirit living in a body, and that after this life is over, I will go to a place, the spirit world or heaven or nirvana or whatever you want to call it. I will go to this place and my life will continue. I know that. To me, that's a fact. And I'm afraid our young people are losing that. And when they lose that, they lose hope. They lose faith. They lose a vision for their future. One atheist told me, well, they don't have a purpose either. And one atheist told me, well, you have to make up your own purpose of life. Well, not really. That don't work. That don't work. And so I'm just hoping that somehow we can get to them and explain to them that they really are spiritual. And that moving genes around and checking sites in the brain will not cure mental illness, will not change people from what they're doing now. And maybe we can have a better generation that don't want to kill themselves so much and don't want to kill other people. Thank you.